that.
Richard, I think you're still muted, brother.
Yeah, Richard, I think you're still muted.
Yep. Sorry, I was trying to figure out why we had just come, Bob. First of all, Bob, a big welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this. My apologies, though. We literally just got out of a 3 hours like a special workshop for our MBAs and for our MS business students on marketing, and I was on my Zoom on my laptop downstairs. So when I came onto my desktop Zoom, I was wondering why I wasn't having the option of closed captioning and all of that at the bottom. So I had to kind of sort that out. So I think I'm recording it right now, or I'm getting the closed captioning on the what's it called, the laptop, but I'm able to see you and I'm able to do this on the desktop. So hey, listen, thank you so much, Bob, really genuinely for joining us. You couldn't be more spot on. The A&M big win over Alabama is still in, I think, front of mind for all of our whole A&M community. I'm sure it is for you as well.
Oh, you bet. You have to resist the urge to say, but if only we beat Mississippi State. You sort of have to leave it there.
So this is Bob, the guy that's going to be talking. He's the CEO of Southwest Airlines.
Oh. Nikki, I think your volume's on.
Sorry.
No worries. Well, Bob, let me go ahead, if it's okay, let me go ahead and introduce you.
You bet.
Here, and we've also got some business honor students that have joined us. We're so thrilled to have a variety of different people from all over the university, but in particular at Mays, of course. And we're so proud of you, Bob, just, incoming CEO at Southwest. You are just going to be one of a handful of top, Aggies that have managed to make it to the very top of a Fortune 500 company. And it's really, really impressive. Bob Jordan serves Southwest Airlines currently as Executive Vice President and incoming Chief Executive Officer. Bob is responsible for all activities involved in communication and outreach, as well as bringing the right people into Southwest Airlines, giving all employees the opportunity of personal and professional growth, and assuring quality and depth of leadership throughout the company. Bob also oversees the airport affairs, diversity and inclusion, and corporate facilities departments. Bob, I will say on the note of overseeing employees and so forth, we got to make sure in the future we got to get some MBAs and some MS business students and Aggies up there working for you for sure. Bob joined Southwest Airlines in 1988 and has had numerous leadership roles there. I did want to mention during his time at Southwest, he has led numerous significant change initiatives, including the acquisition of AirTran Airways, the development of the new Southwest.com e-commerce platform, the all-new Rapid Rewards loyalty program, and an enhanced boarding process. Prior to Southwest, Bob worked for Hewlett-Packard as a programmer and financial analyst. He holds an undergraduate degree in computer science and a master's in business administration, both from Texas A&M University. Fantastic. He and his wife live in Flower Mound, Texas, and they have 2 grown children. And again, Bob, really a pleasure to have you here. I did want to say, I promised 2 professors to say something on their behalf, and that is Dr. Rogelio Oliva, who of course has had in the past the professorship in your name, as well as the current professorship in your name, Dr. James Abbey. Both of them had specific things that they had to do today, and that is the only reason why they are not joining us today. They really wanted to be here, but they specifically reached out to me to tell you they're so grateful to you, and that they were, in my words, bummed that they couldn't be here today. So Bob, welcome back to Mays, Bob.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'll, if it's okay, I'll try to go pretty fast, 10, 15 minutes, and then we can have Q&A time. But hey, it's a joy to be with you all. I appreciate it. Every time I'm with a group, I'm amazed at, it's just everybody's abilities and the folks that are coming out of A&M. I always laugh. I would never get into Maze these days. I would definitely not get into the MBA program if I was applying. So, I was in the MBA program before it was Maze. So at the time, it couldn't have been more than a decade old. It was mostly geared towards engineering students that then wanted to go get pick up a business degree as well. So I came out of computer science and ended up picking up an MBA. But anyways, it's a blast to be with y'all. And I'll go through some things really fast if that's okay. And then we can just talk. But and thanks for the intro and the little resume there. As you can tell, I've just been extraordinarily blessed in life. I've been blessed to be with a great company like Southwest, and then I've just been blessed to be able to do a lot of different things, which not everybody gets that chance. And so a lot of things in life are skill, and a lot of things in life are you just get a couple of chances here and in there, and things work out. So I've just had the joy to be able to have a lot of different jobs and opportunities. I never thought this would be one of them. I will admit to y'all, I started here as a programmer. I wasn't very good at that. So I ended up going to finance a couple of years later, and I went to finance because of one reason. I did a project for a leader that I decided I really enjoyed their style and wanted to learn from them. And I actually changed jobs in order to follow a leader. And that leader was Gary Kelly, who is our CEO today that I'm following. And that was the last job that I actually applied for at Southwest. The other 15, he just moved me to places to either work on problems or projects or just give me a chance. And so my career was basically made because I had a sponsor helping me and thinking about me and looking out for me, even when I didn't really know it. He would say, well, I wasn't sponsoring you. I was just putting you into place to fix something for me. I would say the reverse, which is that's exactly what a sponsor does. A mentor talks to you about things. A sponsor talks about you to others and puts you into places where you can grow. And there's just a big difference. I've had a lot of mentors in life that I got advice from, but I've had very few sponsors that were really pushing me into places and talking about me to others to give me an opportunity. But anyways, I had up until May, when we decided this is what we were going to do, I would never have thought this would be where my career ends up. But we all have things that we're great at, and we all have things that we need to work on. And in my own mind, I have a longer list of things to work on. So, you have to feel like you can be good at many, many, many things to be the CEO. And but anyways, I'm going to give it my best shot because I love the company and I love our people more than anything. It's yikes. It's hard to say, but I turned 30, 40, 50, and now 60 at Southwest Airlines, which, if you can believe that. And above all, I love our people and I want good things to happen for them. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you feel about all this? And, or what do you want to do? And they expect an answer, which is, we're going to do this with the airline, and we're going to go to this place and open this city. They expect a list of strategies. And before I can get to that, I always start with the number one thing I feel, and it's always very hard to communicate, is I feel devoted to our people. Because every person, we hire great people, and every person they have career aspirations, and they have life aspirations, and they have families, and they have kids, and they want to buy houses, and whatever the list is, and they count on good things happening to Southwest Airlines so those good things can happen in their lives. And so above all, that's the way I view the job, is wanting to do good for our people so that in turn they can do good for themselves. But I'll give you a quick just rundown about me and some leadership things, and then I promise I'll stop talking here. But we have an A&M family. If you, depending on how you count it, our two kids, their spouses, my son-in-law was in the band in the Corps. My brother-in-law, 4 nieces and nephews, my son-in-law's entire family. So depending on how you count it, any given day, there's about 15 of us. So, and we've got 2 grandsons that will be class of, I think it's 41 and 39. So a long time from now, but they're already well indoctrinated. The older one had been to 7 football games by the time he was 2. So we may be over tilting in the indoctrination. I'm not sure, but anyways, we're a big A&M family, and we've just been completely blessed by that. I had a chance to be on the Mays Dean's Advisory Council for a while, and am now on the Association of Former Students board. It just consumes more time. So actually, another Southwest guy, Ryan Green, is now on the Mays board. And then on the association board, I'm blessed because I love that, because the association does so much that you never even know about for the university and for our students and our former students. And it's a joy to be part of that group and just hear the stories and it's a very A&M group too. So you've got folks on there like John Zachary. Everybody knows the Zachary name, but no one comes in. What I love, it's very A&M. Nobody comes into the room with a title. Nobody ever asks you what your job is. They come in the room to serve Texas A&M and to serve our students. And anyways, it's a joy. And next year I'm the chair-elect. So in 23, I'll be the chair of the board for the association. So anyone graduating in 2023 will have to put up with me talking at graduation. So they're speaking at graduation and some other things. So a muster and a few other things. So I'll just warn you in advance. But I get asked a lot about 2 things: career and leadership. What do you think about your career lessons, and what about your leadership lessons? And I'll tell you, I don't have anything super profound, because career, a lot of times when I sit down and talk with somebody, especially who's coming right out of school, they'll talk a lot about how do you get to a certain place, or I'll have a career plan. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. In 7 years, I'm going to be here. In 9 years, I'm going to be there. Or somebody will ask me, well, how do I have a career like yours? You've been able to do all kinds of fun and interesting things. So how do I have a career like that? And I always say the same thing, which is my advice is really basic, which is work for somebody that you admire and care about and love their leadership style, because it all flows from that, including your job satisfaction. People want to work for great leaders. And then second, if you trust your leader, don't worry so much about your career when they ask you to do something. I know people who, when somebody says, hey, I want you to go over here and do something, different job, they'll ask about, well, how many people? Is it more or less? Is my span growing or shrinking? Is it a step up? And they'll look at the opportunity in a calculated way through the lens of always wanting to make progress on the resume versus wanting to make progress in experience. And my career, I went from, I'll try to give you a quick rundown. I was at Hewlett Packard for a little while, but here I was a programmer. Then I was a manager in finance, working for the group that I had been the programmer for, then the corporate controller, then head of finance. Then I went to procurement, then to technology, then to a group that had basically fuel and our facilities, then to created a group that was strategic planning, then back to technology, then to our planning group, so it's basic financial planning and network planning. Where do you want to fly? Then we created our commercial group. Then I was asked to go lead the AirTran integration. Actually asked to go get it. We had talked about it and was just asked to go get it done and integrate it. So what's my point? My point is, if you looked at that on the basis of every time did I acquire more reports and more people? And was it a traditional expansion of responsibility? No, it was up and down and up and down, but I trusted my leader. And even when sometimes I would say, man, I don't have any experience going to procurement or supply chain, why would you ask me to do that? He would say, well, no, you can learn it. Just go get it done. Go build a team and go work in procurement. And I trusted that he knew better, he or she knew better. And I didn't worry about where it fit in my quote career progression. I enjoyed the jobs, and I trusted that sponsorship and mentorship and just went and did them. So the biggest piece of advice I would have for you is to think of your career that way, that if I had taken a traditional look, half of the things that I've been able to do, I would have said no to. And I've just enjoyed them beyond belief. And I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason. So now when I look backwards, I can see the pattern that led to where I am today, but the pattern wasn't evident at the time. A lot of times somebody was asking me to do things. So that's not super deep advice, but I mean, work for somebody that you trust, love, admire, and want to work for. And then if that person, if you believe all those things about that person and your company, don't worry so much about what they ask you to go do, because it's going to work out in the end. The other thing, I'm asked a lot about is, well, leadership style, or how do you think about leadership? And it's very similar. A lot of folks go first to all your, the abilities, and you have to have an analytical ability and a communication ability and all. And you do have to have all of those things. You've got to have all that, but those are table stakes. If you're gonna be a terrific leader or good at a function, you've got to have skills and abilities, and a lot of people have those. What I focus a lot more on is the differentiator, which is how you behave and how you lead, not the skills that you have or the skills that you've gained. We have something here that we worked our way through. Southwest is known for culture. And we worked our way through a couple of years ago through something we called the Southwest Way, which is trying to define what makes Southwest Airlines unique. And we refused to define the culture, but we wanted to do kind of a reset on our values, because we had, like a lot of companies over the years, we had a mission statement and a vision statement and a promise statement and a bunch of values and leadership capabilities and senior leadership capabilities. And we had 80 things that we said were important, and nobody can remember 80 things. So we were really trying to distill that. And interestingly, we started with the question, what is the Southwest Way? What makes Southwest Airlines different and unique? And you had one camp saying, it's how we turn the aircraft, it's our efficiency, it's our fortress balance sheet, all the stuff that you read about. And we ultimately worked our way to, it's not all that. It's how we expect people to behave and why we hire the kind of people that we hire. And it came down to two basic things. There are 9 values, but it came down to 2 basic things. And again, there's not going to be any great enlightenment here, but it's the golden rule. We call it the platinum rule, which is we want to hire people who want to treat others the way they would like to be treated. In other words, put others over self. I use the example, and everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody, where it's a cell phone selfie world. It's everybody in a world where people are constantly taking pictures that put themselves at the center. We look to hire people that turn the phone around and point the camera at others. In other words, just develop the mindset of others before self. That's how you produce great service. That's how you serve your fellow employees well. And then the second, which again is really basic, is I think in a sense the essence for us, especially for leaders, is we look for people who by nature are very humble. And humble isn't, oh, I think less of myself. Humble is, I think of myself less often. I'm thinking of others first. If you're a high ego person at Southwest, will not last. I always kind of laugh that the body will reject the organ because they just don't fit. And so again, it's really simple. What I could go through the 9 values, but essentially what makes us different is we look for people who want to serve others first versus themselves. And we look for people who are humble and low ego. And it's very basic. But it can be amazingly difficult to find. And so anyways, it's to me, that's our differentiator, and it's what leads to a focus on service and a focus on others. It is a really hard industry, though. So we've been in the headlines just a bit. If you follow Southwest, we had a pretty good meltdown over the weekend, and I always believe in telling the truth, but that one of the headlines of the stories that I did, I think it was USA Today, I can't remember which one, but it was basically, we had a very bad weekend, which we did. We inconvenienced 300,000 customers over the weekend. And there are a lot of reasons why, and I'll tell you, basically and this isn't in the news because we're trying not to upset the FAA, who we need, but the Jacksonville FAA control tower, which normally has 33 controllers, had 3 show up. Now, we think it related to the vaccine mandate, and who knows, but at the end of the day, the ATC could not control Florida. And so you ended up shutting down Florida for 9 hours. And we've got a lot of traffic in Florida, but the main thing is our network is built rather than a hub and spoke where you basically fly Delta to and from Atlanta. We flow aircraft all across the country. So the aircraft may wake up in Oakland and end up in Baltimore and touch 6 cities during the day. And half of those aircraft lines in any day flow through Florida at one point. So when Florida shuts down at some point in those 9 hours, half of our aircraft lines just stopped. We also have a very big crew base in Orlando. So crews couldn't get into the network, and there's all kinds of timing, there's all kinds of rules, but at the end of the day, you couldn't get new crews into the network. So what happens, and it's just the way an airline works, is an airline counts on every part moving all the time. The aircraft have to move, the crews have to move, and when they stop moving, really bad things happen. And the airline, the crews especially, and the aircraft end up in the wrong spot, and it can take days to put all that back together. So anyways, we had a bad weekend, but we're a great airline. We're taking care of our customers, and we'll get through that. But it was not very pleasant, I will tell you that. It is it's a industry that's a blast, because I love things that are complicated and crisis. I can't tell you that I necessarily love the weekend, but it's a complicated and fascinating industry. And then last thing I'll tell you just real quick, and we'll go to questions. Where are you with this CEO transition? I'll just give you an update there and move on. It's not effective. We chose to have a long transition period, so it was announced, and it's not effective till February 1st. To give us time to plan. What I'll tell you is it went from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in about a day, because things just start. It's announced and things just start. And so we're basically done. So the company reporting structure right now is Gary, our CEO, me, and then the rest of the company. So we've flipped all the reporting about 3 weeks ago. So it's effectively finished. So, but it's not literally effective till Feb 1, and then I'll join the board on Feb 1 as well. But I had 5 really basic. I'm a list maker. I am probably too analytical, but I'm a list maker. But I had 5 basic things in terms of what to do during the transition, because it's important to get it right. And they're really basic, but one is communicate like crazy and try to say yes to almost anything. So whether that's internal, media, investor relations, whatever it is, try to get in front of as many people as I can, because I've been here a long time, but they need to get to know me even better, and they need to see my commitment to the company. So I can't tell you how many events that I've done at this point, but number 1, communicate. Number 2, get out and be with our people, especially in the field. the company is the airport. What occurs, it's not what occurs in headquarters. The headquarters is important and we support the field, but our frontline employees are where the action is every day. So I've been somewhere every week, in an airport, in training classes. So same thing, I probably had the chance to be in front of nearly 10,000 employees at this point in 3 months. So, and it's been a joy. It's been a joy to be out with our people. And when I'm out, I don't have any big message. It's basically to say, thank you. I appreciate you. The summer was hard. I'm sorry about that. You've got my commitment. I love you to death. And that's the message, but it's been a joy to be with our people. But 2 is to get out. 3 is to leverage our tools. So COVID was ugly, but COVID gave us some tools just like this that we're using. So through both social media and other platforms, I can't be everywhere, but I can extend the reach through social media and platforms. And I mean, literally if I'm in an airport, I can hold my phone up, do a 2-minute update, blast it out. And so it's a shame not to use the platforms to enhance the reach. So that's 3. 4 is have a bias for action. So be very thoughtful about the transition, but have a bias for action, because people don't hang out in uncertainty well for a long time. So you need to get answers, you need to get your org settled, those kinds of things, and move on, because even good people, change is hard, uncertainty is hard. And then last, number 5 is get next year organized, because we have a process, we're already planning. So you have to get in front of getting the next year organized. And that's basics like financial plan, but also, well, what's important? I need to, the company's not changing, but I need a message around how I think about what's important for 5 years, for 1 year. And I do have some different, my messages probably are a little different. You'll hear a lot more from me about modernization. We've got to give good tools to our employees in the airports. You'll hear a lot from me about diversity. We must make diversity progress, and not just in leadership. Where a lot of companies have got a goal, and it's the board of directors and leaders. That's important, but what's even more important is that we have an inclusive environment in all of our teams, and people feel that. Not just, oh, I see that leadership is changing. So you hear a lot from me on that front, and you'll hear a lot from me on sustainability, especially our carbon emissions reduction strategy, because it's equally important. And it's super complicated, and it's going to take a long time, and it's going to take the government, but you got to get going, and you got to have a plan. And you got a bunch of airlines out there saying carbon neutral by 2050, and the people committing won't be in those jobs and may be dead by the time 2050 rolls around. So it's really easy to say that. What's a lot harder is to say, what am I doing next year and the next year and the next year, and make it real, so that we've got a real plan now to 2030. Say, actually, you'll see us out there with that next week. You'll see a tangible plan for what we are doing for the next 10 years, not just, oh, by the way, 2050 is way out there. So anyways, I felt like I needed to get my 2022 and beyond message together. So with that, I promised you 15 and I did 25. So my apologies for that quick update. I'd love to talk about whatever is on everybody's minds, and almost any question is fair game. Almost. You can't ask me the next city that we're going to open.
That was awesome, Bob. Really informative. Some really good nuggets there that I think everyone can take away from what you said. Got a couple questions, couple MBAs questions. I see them coming in. Ryan Staples. Hi, Bob. Thank you for being here. Can you share what you have done as a leader to be successful at getting the buy-in of others to your vision?
That's a great question. And there's there's no one answer, and there's a balance. And so we're a very collaborative company. We talk a lot about being family here. And so one point is, well, it starts with relationships. It's much easier to work with somebody when you have a relationship with them. And we're helped by the fact that many of our leaders have been here 20 years or more. And so you have the ability to work with somebody that transcends motives or politics or all those kinds of things. And so that helps. you do need to have, you need to collaborate and have good discussion and have people buy in or feel like they bought in. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I have to decide. Somebody has to decide, because at some point it's time to quit talking and decide what we're going to do. And a lot of companies, I think what happens is you stop short on one end or the other. Either you just, the leader sends out a note and says, here's the plan, which is very decisive, but there's no buy-in. Or you talk and you talk and you talk and you try to get consensus from everyone, and it's not possible. What you need is consensus that once we're done talking and it's decided, we all walk out unified, whether you agreed or not. That's the biggest thing. And we're committed to that. But it just, a lot of it is just starts with relationships, letting people be heard, listening, dialoguing, and then at some point deciding time to call the question and move on.
That's great. Craig Razef, also an MBA here, graduating in December. Did you have a dream to become an executive CEO when graduating from the Mays MBA program? Something that both Ryan and him, of course, can relate to. At what point in your career did you realize that you can become the CEO of Southwest one day? In May. I would actually tell you, it's interesting because I'm maybe a little bit unusual. So I've never really, I love the work, and I always aspire to do fun work. And more than anything, I probably enjoy, the thing I most enjoy is being with people and building teams. Which is probably why I've been moved around. I love it when a team gets to the point where they're working really, really well. And I don't mean just on the work, I mean the way they work. The fundamental piece to a true team is team trust. The team must trust each other. The only way you're going to get team trust is if people in the room feel like they can be vulnerable, they can express themselves. And the only way that's going to occur is if the leader takes the first step. That's the way I've always, it's the Pat Lencioni, if you're familiar. Pat's a good friend. And it's super basic, but people, a lot of times they start with the process. We're going to go around the table and we're going to talk, and I'm going to write the agenda, versus starting with how to make the team a true team and to develop team trust. And if people feel free to be themselves in the room and to challenge each other without fear of a motive or those kinds of things, the team is just so much better. So I've always enjoyed that, building teams and doing new things and learning new things. But I will admit, I've never had career aspiration. I've never really aspired to another job or level. I've never really aspired to a level or a certain job. I've just aspired to do fun things, because about every 3 years I have a tendency to get bored. So if anything, I'll tell you, when I was asked about, this is a complicated question, sorry to go on so long, but that one of the chief duties, if not the chief duty of a board, is to hire and fire the CEO, which means succession planning constantly. And so you know that you're in succession planning process. And if anything, my conversations have usually been with them about why I feel like I'm not that good of a candidate. That I love the work and I love people and those things, but I really don't like all the stuff that the CEO drags with it, all the externals, and you're not in control of your calendar. I'm a big proponent of balance in your life. I think you're a better person and a better leader if you have more than one thing in your life. And so I've probably talked to the board more about why I think I'm not a great candidate than why I am. And so, no, quick answer is no, I would never have thought this was a possibility, even up till May. So, but what do? I love the company. And when I was asked, you feel duty and loyalty to the company and to the people. And so you just decide you're going to do it. Wow, I think that deserves a serious whoop.
It's an honest answer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Asmara Tekla asks, how does one find a sponsor like you had? They seem rare.
That is a great question. And it's something that we are talking a lot about here, because if you look at things like making progress in diversity, the sponsorship is a huge part of that. And again, a mentorship has a place, but sponsorship, because if you think about what makes a career, it's being, I hate to say it this way, but it's getting chances, and it's being seen, and it's getting into the room and getting to the table and all that. And it's not obvious when it's going on, but people get to the table because somebody advocated for them, or somebody gave them a project or a duty, and then or somebody talks them up in a meeting, and that's the way life works, in addition to that person giving them advice and counsel. And why I worry about that, I give you long answers, I'm sorry, I'm a big context person, is when you talk to somebody about why they leave. So you've got I'll just use as an example, a person of color, and you say, what would make you not, and they're super talented, like so many people are, what makes you leave Southwest Airlines? And the answer is, I don't see anyone like me up there. And now, in other words, the implication the company is accidentally sending is there's no place for you. And it's going to take sponsorship and a lot of effort to get there, because we just have tremendous people. I think you have to be active, and you have to seek it out. I'm lucky in that well, I guess I did seek it out. I went to work for the person who I admired, but I think you have to actively seek that from people. If there's somebody that you admire, hey, ask them, hey, will you spend time with me? And you'll be amazed that most people will. I have probably, outside of reports, I have probably 7 people of all different levels that would probably say I'm their sponsor. And because it's either I found out something about them, or generally because they asked me to. And at least 3 of those have moved along pretty quickly. And had I not known them, I don't know that would have happened, because I didn't know them. And then I get to know them, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're terrific. And I can help advocate for them, and their careers have moved along. Now, I don't think they did that I don't know that they did that for a career reason, but it sure, didn't hurt. But if there's anything I worry about the most, well, there's a lot of things I worry about, but it's that there is talent out there and we just don't know it. And we've got terrific people that could do all kinds of things, but for knowing them, that's the only reason that they're not. I worry about that a lot.
Excellent. Dr. Richard Metters asks, Southwest Airlines was a short-haul airline for a couple of decades. That's no longer true. Could you walk us through the strategic decision and how operations have changed because of it?
Yeah, I don't, like a lot of things that feel like strategy after the fact, I don't know that it was a strategy. There are a lot of things that you could say, well, we had these discussions and we pivoted. And generally the things that occur look a lot smarter in the rearview mirror, because in the moment when you're making them, it wasn't a strategy, it just had to happen. So if you took this, as we grew, and as you grow, what happens is your network expands. So if you want to keep, if you want more, if you're an intrastate airline and you want more opportunities, what do? You fly to other boundaries, and then you fly to other boundaries. And at some point you're flying to the Caribbean and Mexico. And so by nature, the length of haul is what we call the length of haul, which is both how far the aircraft travels and how far the person travels. They both have to come up, because it's very different to fly inside Texas than to fly coast to coast. So I just tell you, by nature, it happened as we expanded our opportunities. If we had stayed a point-to-point only airline, we wouldn't be the largest domestic airline in the U.S. at this point. So you have to pivot. You have to look at other things though and say, well, what do I not want to change? The single aircraft type really helps us. It simplifies all kinds of things, and it helps lower our costs. We don't want to change that. We don't want to change our culture. We, at least right now, don't want to change our assigned, our non-assigned seating, the open seating. But if some point you had to do that, I think we would look at it. If you went back even to Herb, what's interesting, and Herb is a good friend. I miss him terribly. Probably the smartest person, and smartest person and biggest goofball I've ever met, but sometimes, if you asked, I remember over the years, Herb said, we will never have a frequent flyer program. We will never fly long haul. We will never fly international. We'll never have Wi-Fi on board. Well, I can give you the long list of stuff that Herb said we would never do, and we're doing them because we had to make those market-based changes. So you just have to adapt. But I'll tell you the biggest thing is a lot of things that look like strategy in the moment, they're just decisions you're making because you need to grow or you have something that's occurring, but it's not so much a strategic decision. Not a very profound answer.
Regina Oti asks us first, she says, thank you, Bob. Please, did you at any time doubt yourself as a leader? And if so, how did you overcome this doubt?
That's a very insightful question. I doubt myself all daily, hourly. And what I mean is I've got I don't know if it's a complicated personality. I don't think so. Because when I talk to people about it, I figure out that most people share the same attributes, which is I don't doubt my ability to go do the work. When Gary asked me, he said, we had a sheet of paper that said it was a good idea. And he said, here, go buy AirTran. It looks like a good financial decision. Let's go do it. I've never done any M&A. I didn't doubt my ability to go do it. But I doubt I have the voice in my head that never feels good about the last thing that I did. That's the voice that runs in my head all the time. It probably helps motivate me and help me prepare, but I was born with a voice that's always critical. And so every time I come off of a speaking thing or something, I just feel like, oh, I could have gone better. And it doesn't matter how many people tell me that was awesome. I appreciate it. But the voice in my head is telling me that it did not feel that way. So what's my point is what I found, back to the vulnerability thing. You have to watch yourself because leaders will teach you, business will teach you that you can show no weakness, that showing weakness or talking about things like this hurts you because you've given somebody else power because you've talked about a weakness. What I found is that talking to people openly about how I feel about things is empowering because 90% of the people I talk to say, oh, I feel the same way. I'm so glad to hear that we share the same thing. So I would encourage it. There's vulnerability is a very powerful thing, especially with a team.
That's great. We have one of our former MS business students, Hannah Smith, asks, I know you mentioned meeting with people all throughout the company and have probably met over 10,000 people over the last 3 months. Throughout the turbulent times Southwest has been through, especially with the recent events of COVID and of the last week, how else are you expressing optimism externally and internally to your team and company throughout these challenges?
I think that's a great question. And these are all great questions. I think you can be simultaneously, well, first off, you start with what do people want? They want honesty, tell me the truth. And they want, I hear a lot, just say it. There's something to say, be clear, just tell me what's going on. And we've had to make a lot of hard decisions. When you lose 97% of your business in 3 weeks, you have to make a lot of hard decisions. We ultimately laid nobody off. We had, I think we offered a lot of leave programs. At one point we had 22,000 people on leave. So we had to make a lot of hard decisions, but at the same time, you could be equally optimistic about a future that lies out there because this is a great company with great people. And so I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. In fact, if anything, I feel like leaders need to be truthful and tell people what's happening. And at the same time, inspire hope for the future and a better future. And I don't think those are disconnected. I will tell you with COVID, one thing that it's a very timely question because I'm working on we start the year with these things called rallies. You get up and you talk to thousands of people. And so, well, what's my message? And typically it would be, rah, rah, 2022, and we're going to do these things, and we're going to get back to making money. We're going to beat the competition, and we're going to fly, whatever the list is. We're going to take 114 aircraft next year, which we are. It's going to be our biggest year ever. But I've convinced myself that we want to do that, but it's disrespectful not to pause first and just reflect on the fact that it's been a really hard 20 months, and people have experienced hard things, whether that's COVID, some of the racial issues. For us, we had a very hard summer. We worked people, literally beyond measure. We had people, mandatory weekend after weekend after weekend. And it's disrespectful not to pause and just acknowledge that, hey, it's been tough and we've got a great culture, but we need to pause and rejuvenate ourselves. And part of that is just giving people the grace and the space to say, yeah, the last year and a half was really hard. And I'll give you a couple, and then you go on to, man, I am super optimistic about the future, and here's why, and here's what we're going to do. And I'll give you some examples. I know this is a long answer. It's just really important. I've decided, at least for me, it's very important. So I'm in the back, I'll give you just a couple quick examples. I'm in the back galley. I'm talking to 4 flight attendants who are terrific, and we're talking about vaccines and mandates and who's vaccinated or not. And we're subject, as a government contractor, we're subject to this mandate. And it's very controversial for some. So we're talking, and one of the flight attendants, who is actually on training, her first flight, she's in training, she starts crying. And I said, well, hey, Kimberly, what's up? And she said, well, I just want you to know, for a lot of people, COVID is going to be a bad, you're going to look back and it's a bad period, but it's over. She said, for me, it marked my life because I lost my fiance 2 weeks ago. And he was not vaccinated. He was in great health. But anyway, she had a story. And I've run into that kind of story all over the place. We had to do something called, because we weren't sure we were going to get the government CARES Act money, we had to do something called, we had to plan for a layoff, the first in our history. So we had to, because we didn't know. Again, when your business is down 70% and you're losing $1 billion a month in cash, you have to make decisions. And there's a notification period. So we had to send our folks who could be laid off something called a warn letter. So the warn letter, basically, it's a required notice that hey, this could happen to you. So we sent those in November of 2020. Now, we ultimately didn't have to do it. So what's my point? So I'm in a pilot base last month talking to people, and there's a guy in the corner, and he's standing, and he's clearly mad. Great guy, but he's mad. And I said, hey, what's up? Walked over, it's what's up? And he goes, I don't believe in this company any longer because you screwed me and my family. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, you sent me that letter. You told me I didn't matter. And I could have given him all the reasons why we had to do it. The company's losing a lot of money and it's required notice. At that point, we had to make these decisions. But what he needed to hear was, I wish we didn't have to do that. It was probably terrifying to get a letter in the mail that says you could be laid off, and your family sees it and reads it, and you're uncertain about your future. And all I could do in the moment is apologize and tell him I wish we had not had to do that as well, and to acknowledge what he was feeling. And he walked over, he shook my hand, and he said, well, I'll never say it again. So this is a very long answer to the question, but what's my point is, I think sometimes you need to just give people, I think for this period especially, we need to recognize that this has been very difficult for many, and we need to pause, allow people that recognition, and give it some space before we just move on to 22, which we'll do. So anyways, I just think sometimes you just have to understand what's happening out there. And I think this has been a very difficult period.
Yeah, I think it's that important value of empathy. I mean, it's so important, I think, in a time like this. Brian I think it's Cianzola, asks, because Southwest is headquartered in Texas, does Abbott's recent executive order change anything regarding the federal contractor vaccine mandate? Is there a fine owed to the state of Texas?
No, it's a, the quick answer is no. And Ebbett knows this, the executive order or a federal order completely supersedes the state order. Everybody knows that. What is, I'd hate to get into politics, but it's disappointing to me that as a country, that the pandemic and then its solution, the vaccine, have been politicized by both parties. That's very disappointing. And the majority, a lot of what you see coming out of states and DC and everywhere is positioning to get favor with a group versus let's make progress. And I'm just, so anyway, I don't have a political comment other than that's the answer. My disappointment is that so many are using these serious issues to curry favor rather than make progress. And I will simply leave it there. I'm not running for office. But that's, to me, that's, I don't know. You need leadership, not pontification.
Yeah. Naved, one of our MBAs, asks, "Hi, Bob. It's a pleasure to have you today. Thank you. Southwest's most competitive field is pricing. However, post-COVID stats say approximate 80% of the corporate business is down and industry is more looking for the revenue from leisure trips. How is Southwest planning to come up the COVID curve in such distressed market?"
You want to join our FP&A team?
He may. He's
That's
probably looking.
That's a hard
internship.
question because there's two things in there, and you've got it, which is the yields, which is basically how much you make per seat, depend highly on business traffic, which tends to pay a higher yield. And so your yields are going to be depressed until the business traffic comes back. So the business traffic was on actually, and it's down, this sort of say down 60% right now, where actually in the summer, we saw leisure traffic ahead of 2019. The leisure traffic came roaring back. This whole revenge travel thing, people wanted to go anywhere. It helps to have a $29 fare too, to encourage people to travel. But so two things. We need to get business travelers back to traveling. There's a safety aspect to that. All kinds of things. But there's a part that we're not in control of. You need to get things open. You may have a willingness to travel as a business person, but the client you're going to see, their office building may be closed still, and so it's just going to take a while. But we were seeing about 5 points a month of that traffic come back until the Delta wave hit. So I'm hopeful that it rebuilds again. The question is part of it gone forever? That's the big question. And I've heard estimates from 0 to 30. And then, so what do you do in that period? You have to push your other yields. You have to fill the planes. You just go to work on other things. And actually, there's a considerable amount of our revenue that comes through the Rapid Rewards card. It's a very profitable piece of the business. And so you'll see a lot from us pushing the card. It's funny, people talk about controlling seats and, how many seats do I quote want to give away for miles? And I would give the whole plane away if you use the card, because generally speaking, if you use the card to get points and then you buy and then you redeem a seat, we actually make more money per seat there than if you gave me cash. So you push other avenues, and then we've got other revenue initiatives. You work to control your costs. It's all those things. But no, it's a great question, and it's going to take a while to rebuild the business. I'm very hopeful that it comes back. I don't think it all comes back, but the first time you lose a contract to somebody who showed up in person, you're going. I guarantee it.
Wow. Vipul, another one of our MBAs, asks, "Hey, Bob, as you have in different roles, so what skills would you say were most common among these roles?" as you've been in different roles?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a good question. So most of my, that's great because most of the job, I think I've had 15 jobs here, and except for going into technology, the first one, every other one that I went into, I didn't have any expertise in the area. So I think you want to take in. So what do? You take in with you just a desire to learn. You got to have you have to have a strong desire to just to constantly learn things, a desire to get to go deep, sit down and learn different functions, which requires you to go deep and really learn the function. You have to, I think, have a desire to really want to work with and get to know people and build teams. Again, I'll say it again. I think the most fun I've ever had is every time I've been able to build a team, because it's a joy to get the team to a point where they're really performing and they get along and they're friends and all those good things. There are probably other basic things like just if you ever used something called Strengthsfinder, my number one is analytical. I got all the boring ones in the top 5, but it's like discipline, responsibility, analytical, communication, something else. I don't remember. The horrifying thing for me was when I figured out there's 30. I think there's 30. Ever heard of Strengthsfinder?
Yeah, we use it.
Never done it. Do it because it's great. Because versus something like a 360 that tries to get you to change your behavior, Strengthsfinder teaches you to play to your strengths, which I love. But first time I did it, there's 34. I think my empathy is like 32, and so it was disheartening because I always thought I was empathetic. And so I asked them, whoever was coaching this, I asked them, like, what's wrong with me? Because I think I'm empathetic and it's 32. And she goes, well, what do you mean? When you talk to somebody, how do you feel? And I said, well, when somebody tells me like the story I was telling earlier, I said, I want to help you. I want to fix the problem. What can I do to fix your problem? And she said, well, that's not empathy. Empathy is I can feel your pain. Like, well, I don't feel your pain at all. I want to help you with your problem. So anyways, I think they're basic skills like the ability to communicate, love people, be analytical, be curious, which to me are much more important than I know exactly how to do, no offense, debits and credits. You got to know that stuff too. But far more in life, especially as you move along and your functions widen, you're expert at nothing. You have to be very broad and really understand how to do things very broadly versus I'm an expert at, you're never, at some point, you're not an expert in any one thing.
Well, Bob, I
Dr.
know.
Strasser, hello. You joined us. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Doing fine. We had an MBA case presentation thing, so I had to jump on a little late, but it's great seeing you.
You just popped up on the screen. Good to see you as well.
Good seeing you.
Bob, I know we're up at 1 o'clock. I don't know, I know you must have a crazy schedule. I did like Kaylee Hart's question a lot. I'd like to get her question in. She's a business honors student, and she says, hello, Mr. Jordan. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. What is your favorite part of your job, Bob? And how do you not lose sight of that when stress and hard times come?
Oh, to me, that's an easy one. And by the way, it's Bob. Nobody ever calls me Mr. Jordan. It drives me. It's my dad. But it's easy. So my favorite part of my job, the work is fun. I love the work, and I love the fact that, an airline can drive you crazy like this weekend because it's so complicated, but that makes it fascinating. There's always something to do. Favorite part of my job is being with our people. I love people, and it's the other part. It's the energizing part, because I can sit here and worry about the government vaccine mandate and how we're going to implement things. And there's all kinds of things are going on. And when you get out and be with your people, you realize that 99.9% are great. They're happy to be here. They're happy to have a job. They have a great attitude. They love the company. They love each other. They want to work hard. And so the favorite part of my job and the part where I gain energy go together. And so where I started, I try to be in a different airport every single week. And I find that I can get up early, catch a 6 a.m. flight, be in LA, do 6 hours, be back home in time for dinner. So, or close. And so those two things go together for me. The other thing, and the last thing I'll say, I mentioned it along the way, is I'm a big believer that you are better if you have balance in your life, and that's family. That can be whatever that is for you. It can be family, it can be faith, it can be a whole series of things. But you're better if your life has some balance, and as your career moves along, you're going to have to work at it, because it's going to get harder. Your calendar is going to get full. You're going to have stacks of emails every day, and you're going to have to constantly figure that out for yourself. And if you don't push back, it'll consume you. And I've had leaders that work for me that it was a badge of courage or a badge of honor to not take your vacation or have 8 p.m. meetings with their teams or whatever. And I kid about it. So if you're not going to take your vacation, give it to me. I mean, it's hard to take your vacation, but I always say, you can choose to do whatever you want. I don't think that's the best, most healthy thing for you. And then even worse, what happens, especially as you move up, people and your team, they learn your example. And next thing you know, you've got your team doing the same thing. And then last is, especially as you move up, just because your team will do it, like have an 8 p.m. or a 7 p.m. meeting every day, that doesn't mean they like it. And so just be aware of what you're doing to yourself, and be aware of what you're teaching others, especially as you move up.
Great advice.
It's been a joy to be with y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Bob, for your time. We genuinely appreciate it. And I'll tell you, honestly, the hour has absolutely flown by.
Because I talked for 30 minutes at the beginning. That's why.
No, I think we could all just hang out and chat with you all day. But really, thank you so much. If you ever need anything back here at Maze, you just reach out to us. And just thanks for sharing all your words of wisdom with everybody today.
Oh, thank you. And it'd be nice when we can all be in, we could do something in person at some point too. So yeah.
For sure. You're making all us Aggies proud.
Well, thank you. People ask me what's my first goal. I always say my first goal is get to February 1st when it's actually effective. All right, y'all, take care. Have a good day. Good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.